when I was a kid, I did not believe in aliens. But as I got older, I became a hopeful agnostic. And then in 2017, the report of the Nimitz encounter, the fighter pilot encounter with the Tic Tac over the Pacific came out, all the details about that. And ever since then, I've been a true believer. And then when the official report came out, and there was a lot of talk, and there were more interviews with different people, there was more radar data, there's all this different information that came out summer before last. And I got really into it. I did a really deep dive on it, and I just devoured as much information as I could. But and I moved on to other stuff, and I felt like I'd gotten all the good videos and all the good interviews that were out there. But just a month ago, maybe, I started watching um, some videos, and I started like learning about UFOs and UAP more, and I was blown away because in the time between when I first got into UFOs and then stopped, and now a year and a half later, there is so much video out. It's mind blowing. So many more interviews with pilots and military people and stuff. And because there's less stigma now. And people are starting to compile. There are good YouTube channels that compile good footage. And something Neil deGrasse Tyson said a couple years ago was, well, if there were UFOs, we should have seen by now because we've crowdsourced UFO sightings to the entire world because there's 10 billion smartphones in the world, like one for every person pretty much. So the fact that we aren't seeing all this great footage is evidence that it doesn't exist. Well, guess what, Neil? It's starting to happen. So you were correct you were correct, absolutely, but you were incorrect in thinking that um, it's just never going to happen if it hasn't happened by now, because it is happening. And yeah, so the reason why I'm getting back into it again now and why I just love this topic is because, for one, it's at the cutting edge of science. I mean, this is the science and physics and engineering of craft that we know exist, and they enter or exist within our physical space, the world in which we live. They enter into it, they visit, they interact. This, even if we don't know how they do it, the fact that now have evidence that there is someone or something, there's a somebody who has figured out physics and engineering as well, but I think primarily it's the physics of it that really are that's really primal. That has to, for these craft work, you have to invent entirely new form of physics that does not, that however it works, they don't have the effects of gravity. They're like they have anti-gravity. They can move wherever they want. And that should be like, why are scientists, the evidence is there, why do scientists not want to investigate it, including people that whose physicists and astronomers. I've watched videos where they talk about the Fermi paradox and where are the aliens, and they go through all these different scenarios, and then at the very end they're like, yeah, but could they be here? What about the UFO phenomena? And And he's like, well, we don't really know that they come from somewhere else, so we can't really. He was basically like just dismiss it, like we can't really say anything on it. And it got me thinking, why do scientists um, shun this topic and aren't willing to look at it objectively? Now, one a skeptic could argue, who might not have the same awareness of all the evidence and what it means, because it's just never investigated by seriously by the debunkers. Just investigated just enough to come up with an explanation, and then they just ignore all of the corroborating evidence, it seems. um it's because to admit that there's somebody out there who's already figured it out, for one, that means um, that's a threat to the ego of scientists who think that they can come up with the new original ideas. And if there are these anti-gravity machines that are just zipping around and manipulating space, time, matter, energy, consciousness, all this sort of stuff, like, to me, it shouldn't matter. You should still work on the science that maybe works towards it. I think it should be inspiring to say, "Oh wow, look what could happen if we explored, like, let's research anti-gravity." It might not go anywhere. The anti-gravity might be something that kind of comes out of another discovery. It could be something like that. Discoveries open up, so there might be certain technology that manipulates a certain aspect of physics, and then as a result, so you get anti-gravity. Whereas if somebody said, we're just going to try to figure out anti-gravity, and they don't look at the physics over here that would allow anti-gravity to work, they might not get there. So that's one thing. But the thing is, we don't know that until we try. And seeing what could be physically possible for physical beings to be so advanced that, you know that, to me, that's inspiring. But that's because my ego isn't wrapped up in the scientific endeavor, um even though I love science. um and that's not to say all scientists feel that way. It's just enough scientists feel that way that the scientists who might otherwise think about it are like, well, none of my friends or colleagues take this seriously. I'm not going to, have them look at me weird or make fun of me. So that's one. It's a threat to their status as a human being on this planet, what it means to be human, what it means to what are we working towards. Scientists want to be the ones that figure all that out. Yeah, because so anyway, that's one. And then the other one is the spiritual component. And I think this is a big one. To me, I didn't really think of it this way, because my thought was, well, there's still physical there, even if people maybe in ancient times might have worshipped them. We know, as scientifically minded people, that they are physical beings, and whatever powers they have, however they manipulate physics, it might appear to be magic, but it's got to be science based, right? Because it's most likely it's just science that's so advanced you can't distinguish it from magic. And so that might be the objective fact. So the existence of UFOs and aliens on this planet does not say anything about the existence of God or angels or demons necessarily, or anything in the spiritual realm. So basically, if a UFO landed and a gray alien, walked out and said, high to the president, you are looking at a being who, using physics, has godlike powers, but why would that bother you? Because like why? And I've realized it's because psychologically, the existence of aliens would fill this blank space that people fill with God. Some higher intelligence with these powers of control, and they can do whatever they want, and doesn't matter who we elect as president. The aliens will abduct people if they want to. They can do it. They have the powers, or powers to shut down our nuclear launch sites. So I think that threatens scientists, even though there are plenty of scientists who believe in God. One of the things that drives many scientists is the fact that they don't believe in God. And they're like, hey, let's get rid of all this superstition and show that there is, we can explain this physically. Now, UFOs, when they display characteristics that should be physically impossible, cognitively, if you were to entertain the idea that this is an alien being, cognitively, you might be able to say, okay, this is just what advancement in technology looks like, and we can look at that and say, oh wow, let's aim for that. But until we actually do, it is essentially, it's a black box. How they manipulate gravity, we don't have any ideas. There's some fascinating theories out there that I can't tell one way or the other if they're legit, but they are possible ways that their engines might work. So you can just speculate a lot of different ideas. I had this idea that I think is kind of interesting. And maybe I kind of borrowed it from somebody else, but the idea that particle accelerators could be used as part of their engines, okay? Because maybe they need to accelerate particles, and then that produces, and I don't know the physics of it, but the point that I'm getting at is there might be something about particle accelerators being part of the engine that is why they're disc shaped. They're not shaped. They do not interact usually. Most of the cases, when ET craft move through our atmosphere, there's the wind resistance is irrelevant. They can be any shape. They have no resistance whatsoever. So they're in some sort of bubble, some sort of alternate dimension bubble, I guess is one way you could look at it. A type of warp drive. But yeah, it could be that some of them, they just need a particle accelerator. So they just build this particle accelerator, and then they put some seats on the inside, and you just press some buttons. And I would bet you anything, with the way they move, with no, like, it's probably like Google Maps or Google Earth with them. You just want to go somewhere, you just sort of scroll over here, and you're like, or you click on it, like, I'll just go over here, boing, and then you zip, zip, zip. They can, yeah. So we don't know if there are any upper limits to their speed. So those are my thoughts on UFOs, aliens, wanting to get back into the topic this year. And in summary, one of the reasons that I want to is because this is such advanced stuff, and it's right there, and it's right there in front of our faces, and there's all this data. And so for me, it feels like this new amazing discovery. There's something secret about it. It's like not everybody has seen all this evidence, and they're not willing to, because there's a lot to go through, and you have to sort it through a lot. So you kind of have to be passionate about it. But yeah, so it's exciting because of that. It's also exciting because spiritually, it does fill a certain spiritual um, need that I have. Not necessarily, I already believe in God and I believe in angels and demons and all that. I believe in the spirit world, but the idea that there is this other aspect to something that apparently comes from some other place, another realm, a planet, a dimension, whatever it is, they 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 fit to me the definition perhaps of old polytheistic deities. You know, if they can manipulate matter and time, you know. So yeah, so it's kind of cool because of that. It ties into consciousness. I think psychedelics have a link to it. Psychedelics are, I would say, of all my interests, psychedelics is probably the one topic that I'm most fascinated by because so many different areas of interest intersect there. And I would say that UFOs are also a hub around a lot of around which a lot of other topics sort of connect, like paranormal, ghosts, cryptids, consciousness. And then you can go down to all sorts of rabbit trails. It gets a lot weirder than just unusual craft once you start, you know, talking to 50 kids in Zimbabwe who telepathically communicated with these two gray aliens in the middle of the schoolyard in the middle of the day. And that's one of the weirdest ones. So yeah, so I want to I think that the direction I would like to take the topic of UFOs maybe is I'm going to try to make some videos where I talk about one case per video. So one of those is the Ruwa Zimbabwe Aerial School in Zimbabwe, the Virginia Brazil incident, um, the Phoenix Lights, I think, deserve a mention. Let's see what else. Yeah, so those are some. I want to talk about some theories about Bigfoot, skinwalkers, shapeshifters, the possible spiritual nature of alien encounters. One debate that I have within myself is even though I think they're kind of the same things as angels and demons, is it more that angels and demons are actually physical beings that fly craft, or is it that they're spiritual beings who manifest to look like physical beings using craft? And the truth could be somewhere in the middle. It could be very complicated. It could be some weird dynamic that I'm not aware of. But consciousness does play a part in it. I think they figured that out. So yeah, and that's one reason why I think that they're spiritual. They've kind of realized they're. Well, anyway, I'll leave it there. That's my thoughts on UFOs for the new year. I welcome any feedback if you've watched this video this far. This is all just me rambling, so don't know if I really made a lot of sense, but those are my thoughts.